Okay, so I want us to start right off the bat because I've got a lot to do today for us, and want to really make sure that we have some time to discuss the principles so that we know how to use it properly. But I want to start off with talking about some of the mixed feelings and emotions that I'm sensing from people about this material. So, and I'm so needing to pause for multitasking. So, let's see. Oh, I'm going to make Carol my host because she can do can I make her a co-host? Where is it? Okay, I'm gonna make you a co-host, Carol, because you know me and my wonderful multitasking skills. So, and then if I happen to pause because you go into a breakout room and you come back, I'm gonna forget to play or play record. So, okay, so I want us to start off right off the bat. There's a couple of people that have texted that they're held up at work. Like lift Marsha up in your thoughts. She's very, very sick. So we want to make sure that, she comes out of that fine. She's been sick for a couple of weeks. So, but I kind of want to talk about some of the things that people are feeling regarding this material. So, I've been in human behavior, just give you a little bit of background about why I kind of gravitated to going through a certification with Cialdini. So I've been in the human behavior space since 2004. And for me personally, I find it, thank you. I find it fascinating because I've always dug into why people do what they do, how they think, how can I help them? I think that ever since I remember thinking that way when I was a kid in high school. And so how can I help them first get unstuck in personal ways that they're going through? How can I help them thrive and thrive in a way where it actually sticks for them? You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can help people get over a hurdle and then they go right back to the way they were behaving. And the more time I've spent learning and growing and helping people, the more I can recognize the walls that come up for them. Because listen, guys, it's the same for everybody. It just sounds different in their head, but it comes down to the exact same thing. And you'll be surprised because we don't all sit here and start bearing our souls. So many people deal with the same things. Okay. So I see it in my own staff, right? And it wastes energy and time because they're not making a decision they're making the wrong steps forward. In fact, today I had to make a correction exactly like that because they're stuck in how they believe things should be. And it just becomes a distraction. So I see it with people who know that they have a mission and a calling as well, right? They really go for it, they put their energies into it, and then they get off track. And they go for the easy thing that kind of brings comfort to them, enticing them into that place instead of going after that mission and that assignment that they know they're supposed to go after. And basically, it's self-sabotaging, right? I even do it. It's just human behavior, right? And at least I can self-talk my way through mental and emotional processes in order to get myself back on track. So basically, we all get in our own way, right? And so real quick, I first read Cialdini's book a few years ago. And listen, I think like an entrepreneur to begin with. That's just the way my brain works. So when I read Influence, I had two hats on. Number one, the business side of it in terms of how you could use it for marketing. And then number two, the other hat I had on was the human behavior standpoint, which I thought was fascinating. But at the time that I read it for the first time, I was a little conflicted in terms of where I stood on the whole issue. And so for those of you who just joined us, we're actually going to start a conversation about this specifically because people have been having some very diverse responses to this material. So I'm just kind of giving you the background of where I am with it. Now, the whole reason why I got certified was because Cialdini was moving into a whole new direction of making sure that people use the techniques with ethics, because he's had his own 50-year journey, right? And we all keep evolving and changing our perspective. And what we thought about, listen, what you thought about 10 years ago, you don't think in the same way, right? Okay. So we change our perspective on things, don't we? I mean, I hope we do. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So many of us understand that journey, right? Now, quite a few of you have shared with me And thank you so much for sharing it with me. Your struggle with this material. Some feel anger, some feel internal conflict about it, fear of being manipulating towards other people, excitement that you're using shortcuts and minimizing your energy. It's just on the spectrum all over the place, right? So again, I want to thank you for trusting me enough to share your struggle with this or your victories with it. It's exciting for me to see the process. I'm kind of a little bit weird, maybe because of my human behavior background. I love watching people struggle through it because I know that struggle brings growth, right? No struggle, no growth. And you're shifting some thought process, and that's always a good thing because we don't want to be stuck in paradigms and silos. That's a bad thing. All right. So at the end of the day, we're all being influenced by many things and many people with or without Cialdini's principles, right? I mean, hey, this mastermind is actually just giving you some framework and some language to realize it's happening all over around you. If you haven't already noticed it, that's all this is doing. And so now it's waking you up and now you don't know how you feel about it, right? So know that right now with technology accelerating, we're being inundated with so many options, so much information that the water that we swim in right now is super murky in that sector that I'm talking about in terms of being able to get great messages to people that will actually help them. And if you think people are sitting there listening to you when you're talking for 20, 30 minutes, you're mistaken. Their heads are all over the place because of this very reason. So since the first time I read this book until now, right, which has been a little bit of time, couple of years now, it's become crystal clear to me that if good people don't start understanding human behavior and how to be able to speak to others in order to get results for that person's benefit, then as far as I've observed, people are going to be drowning in a sea of voices and who are all competing for their own personal gain. Right? So that's just my personal perspective on it, right? Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of a side thing for just a bit, but it's going to make sense, right? My mentor, Francis Oda, he and I were talking last year about the acceleration of technology. And here he is, 80 plus years old, right? And he's telling me, and it just so happened that Caroline had something on her watch and she was doing they're like so with it, right? And so we were just talking about the acceleration of technology and how it's even going to get faster. And he said to me, if you don't stay on top of technology, he said, when you get to be my age, he said, you're going to be lost because so many people in their 80s right now, as you know, my mom, she doesn't even know how to do an email, right? And it's going to get away from us fast. So I've taken up that advice, right? And this is why this is relevant that I'm telling you this. I personally have team members who will not touch AI. I mean, I have been instructing them to use ChatGPT to minimize the amount of hours they put the lesson plan together because they work more hours than I pay them. And that's all teachers do that, right? Don't get me wrong. That's a whole bigger context, but I shouldn't have thrown that in there. But they are so convinced that AI is evil and that evil people are running all the AI technologies, so they will not touch it. Okay. So if that's the stand on anything, right? Even what we're talking about tonight, then you shouldn't be on the internet. You shouldn't be on Facebook. They're the censor police, right? You get my point, right? So while in any technology, in any technique, any framework, there are good people and there are bad people driving it. So my personal objective is to get as many good people using the information that works with human behavior in order to make an impact for positive choices, positive results. So I use the principles of influence with my own staff, in my marketing, in my negotiations. It's intentional when I use it. I'm not using it all the time in conversations. I make a very intentional decision to use it when I'm aware then I'm going to get resistance or am getting resistance in that moment. I need my team members to do what I'm asking them to do because it's going to benefit the organization, the family, the children. So I apply the principles to help them move further along the road, right? I use the principles of reciprocity. I use the principles of reciprocity with my donors. Listen, guys, they're not going to give to my organization just because I support a good cause or I'm doing something to help. They are going to donate money to me because they trust and like me, because they know I'm going to use the money responsibly. And I'm saying that, I'm not saying that to be prideful. I'm saying that with a sober realization of the responsibility. And so I use the principles of reciprocity with my donors, sending things, gifts all the time, whether they gave something or not. Maybe they gave once, but I'm just constantly letting them know I'm here, building a relationship with them. These principles are useful in so many other ways other than being manipulative, right? So we've experienced people using it manipulatively. That doesn't mean we have to apply it that way. So what I'm saying here is that there are so many ways we could be implementing them for good, integrous intentions. And honestly, with or without these principles, walking in good intentions, guys, is a day-by-day journey, isn't it? I mean, that's the journey we take as good human beings, whether you've got these principles under your belt or not, no matter what method, what direction that you choose to take, checking our hearts to make sure that we are humble, honest, and other-centric is a day-by-day journey with or without these principles. So that's why I'm serving great people like yourselves with these principles, because if we could just get great people like you that use this for good and even educate others about how to be aware when they're getting influenced into an unhealthy way, then I say I'm all for it. That's my stand, but I would like to know what you say. So we're going to open up some time right now to kind of have a little bit of dialogue about where you're at. There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment about where you're at in the process. I said that early on when we first started, that where you are now doesn't mean you're going to end up there later, right? So let's just talk about that. If you're struggling with the principles, talk about it. If you've reconciled it for yourself, talk about it. Who'd like to go first before I call a name? Tom. Yeah, but you have to unmute if you're going to share.
Before you call a name, right? Before you call my name, who would like to go before me?
Yeah. That's exactly what I meant.
Come on, someone.
Anybody like to share first so Tom can have some thoughts? I mean, calculate some thoughts
Right.
there.
So many thoughts.
Yes, Mary Lou.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
Yeah, I'll save you, Tom.
I love you.
Better think fast. Hey, I really enjoy this stuff, and I was thinking how I could use it. So I went to a party last week, and I talked to every single person I could, and tried to see how I could get them to like me, and what do you do, and what's your name, and all of that. And I still, at the back of my head, I had things that I might want to ask them in the future for, like a favor, or maybe I might want to open up a booth at one of their expos. I might want to be a seller too. You never know. But I decided to make a relationship with these people for work purposes and also for my personal purposes. And I kind of liked it, and just putting myself out there. And although at first I felt, wow, what a shameless woman you are, but then later on I thought, hey, so why not? Because they're gonna forget me. And to tell you the truth, I went to a career expo. I was trying to recruit somebody to apply for 2 different jobs. And I thought, gosh darn, just now, I should have given them like a keychain or something. That might have helped. Because I asked.
Mary Lou, let's zero into some of the things that you're saying, because I remember in the very beginning, you were angry. realizing that you were manipulated by people, right? So the light bulbs went on. That was one thing. But the other thing is what I'm hearing you say is that even as you're applying it, you still feel the little bit of confliction. I mean, confliction, conflict. I just made up a word. Okay, so a little bit of a conflict going on internally. Is that not? Is that what I'm hearing in your journey? Like, is this okay? Should I not do it? And then you just decided to jump in with 2 feet. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so while I'm feeling conflicted, I decided to go for it and see what comes out of it because I didn't see why not? It wouldn't hurt anybody. And I don't think anybody felt hurt by me. So I decided, well, let's give it a try and see what happens.
Okay, good. Way to go. I'm so proud of you for that because I know you were struggling with it in the first couple of weeks. Good job. All right. Anybody else? Almost Tom.
Not named Tom.
Not named Tom. Come on, Tom. What do you think? What has been your journey?
Well, first of all, confliction is a word, so congratulations. I think for me, it's trying to reconcile a little bit with what comes naturally, with trying something different that maybe is, that doesn't necessarily come naturally. And I think it's like anything, it's like any new, let's call it a skill, I guess. It takes practice, and then, at first it may seem awkward. It may not seem like it could ever be a part of who you are. And maybe it doesn't feel authentic, right? But then I think the more we do it, and I found that if I'm intentional with anything, that I eventually, if I'm being true to myself and remain true to myself, that then those new skills, let's call them, will do show results. So I think I've tried to incorporate, and have had various results from those attempts, from not budging an inch to seemingly opening up a conversation again, let's say. And so that's what I kind of keep in mind. I mean, I think it's just a matter of repetition to some degree. I think my wife really enjoys it too. So she's kind of incorporated them as well, as we've talked about it. And she's much quicker at taking something brand new and making it a part of her efforts, versus for me, it's like I tend to fall back on what I'm more comfortable with. And I think some of these, I've been in sales related things for a number of years now, and I guess part of it's that I always feel like I always seem to fall back on not wanting someone to feel like I'm pressuring them in any way, or not trying to steer them, and like doing what I'm saying they should do, versus really wanting them to make a decision for themselves that I genuinely feel would be the best thing for them to do. And so there's a little bit of wrestling there. I mean, not that I'm not saying that these are training to do any different. It's just that it's kind of the language part of it.
Sure. And you make a really great point. That's why we're trying to, get it. So next week, so today is about learning, liking, and processing it. And then Saturday, we're just going to practice both. And then Saturday, we're really going to hone in on liking in terms of practice. But it's exactly what you're saying. It's like the constant repetitive application. But the other thing is, my brain went blank and I forgot what the other thing was, but you said something that was really good. So anybody else want to share something? Thank you, Tom, for letting me put you on the spot like that. One more person. Anybody else? What are your feelings about these principles? Are you struggling with them? Are you finding your way through it? Sean.
What's up, Leila? Yeah, thanks, Mary Lou and Tom, for being the sacrificial lambs in this discussion.
No, they got the blessing of going first.
I think I was one of the ones that shared last week that as I was reading the chapter 2, I felt like I had to take a shower after reading it. I felt like I was being sold or talking to a car salesman, i.e. my dad, or a shoe salesman. And even in reading chapter 3, right, just liking thing, right? And like the car salesman who sent out 13,000 cards saying, I like you, right? And so I was trying to figure out why, um, I kind of do know why. And I think Layla hit it on it today with this whole AI technology, right? I believe that God created a version, and then we as men and women have made it some things a perversion, right? It's how we use whatever was created for the good or for the bad of people. And so just like any sales techniques, or these techniques that we're learning, right? I remember learning all these things when I was a pre-Christian, operating in a business world, and things that I had to do to make it wasn't a sale, but it was getting people to do what I wanted them to do, whether it was in real estate or money or development and just whatever it was, right? And it's funny because I grew up, the word I use for that reciprocity, I keep butchering the word, whatever it's called, the R word, is whole molly molly, right? You always take manapua or dim sum or food to
Right.
meeting, with the intent of really not expecting something, but you really are wanting something in return, right? Whether it's a favorite status of something, right? I remember walking to a building department and submitting civil engineering plans, and the guy goes, well, put your plans over there. And the plans was like 10 stacks high and 12 feet long. And we gave him on a pool, and the plan went on top of the guy's desk, right? So I remember doing all those things, and it was a perversion, right? I wasn't doing it with the right heart at that point in time. And then now trying to be honorable, right? Working on being honorable and honoring and doing things the right way. I have to remind myself that am I doing these things? Am I being or practicing someone liking me out of the intentions of my heart to make them better? Or am I doing it because I want someone to sell a car to 13,000 people or to raise funds or to tell you to come to our church or our business or whatever it is, right? So it's interesting that there's these studies that have been done. And like Chidani said, right, or however you say his name, he did it because he wanted people to understand that there's a jujitsu that you can use when someone's trying to do it to you, or when you're trying to do it for yourself in the wrong way. So yeah, I didn't get to read or finish. I think of the 50 pages of reading later, I think I have like 6 more to go. I was like, oh my gosh, because on Amazon Kindle, it tells you, right, 1 hour and 37 minutes. I'm like, a chapter is 1 hour and 37 minutes? Are you serious? Like, I don't even read that on a weekly basis. But anyway, just having that understanding of what it can be for and what it shouldn't be for has been a big thing for me. It's just a remembrance of the intentions of my heart. And am I doing it to build other people up, or am I doing to build up what I want and what I need? And that's a constant thing, right? Do we do it for ourselves, or do we do it for other people? So,
Right.
thanks, Layla. It is a lot of reading, but it's good reading.
It's a lot of reading. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you, Sean, because you're not the only one who talked about all the reading. It's a lot. But eventually I do intend to be sending out cards once a month to all of my clients. But the intention is to really wish you a really happy whatever. I do that with my clients. I said my clients, I'm sorry, my donors is what I meant to say, my donors, right? Because of course I want them to consider donating to us again, but it's for me, the intention is to continue developing the relationship, right? So anyways, okay. All right. Well, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go into the recap of tonight's lesson. We're going to do an overview and close that. Give me a second. Okay. I'm going to open this up. Hopefully it does not distract you. I like to see everybody's faces when I do this. Okay. I will move this when I need to. Okay. So let's just start tonight we're going to recap the real secret to the principle of liking, what we just talked about. It's to like the one that you're with, right? So I want you to turn to the person, to the box on your right. If there's nobody on your right, I want you to look up, or I want you to look down, and I want you to say, I like you. Come on. Turn to the person in the box next to you. Say, I like you. Sean, I'm looking at you. Steven. Okay, no, I mean like this. Look, I like you. You see? Can you see that? Okay, very good. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Tom. Okay. Okay, now I want you to turn to the other side and say, I like you too. Okay, just getting you involved. Come on, I like you too. All right. It feels good to just say it to somebody, doesn't it? Even if you're not looking left or right. Now, I know this in this group, guys, we agree that the number one rule is to first begin to like your customer, to genuinely care about them. And don't you think right now that the world really needs to see that from us, from people in general? Okay, so no matter who you are, sometimes we can get so focused on what task we're performing that we forget to be intentional right in that moment. I know that I've walked away from a conversation and realized I missed an opportunity to add value to somebody, right? I think we can all say we've had those moments. So how, like that's a moment when we could learn about the person right in front of us. And isn't it true that when you know someone really cares about you, I mean, genuinely likes you, you feel safer with them. Can I get a nod? Because I can see you all. Do you feel that way? Because I do. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. And that's the same with those that interact with us. They feel that way. So that means we have to do our homework to find the things that honestly we have in common with them, or can sincerely compliment them about, or can genuinely cooperate with them on. And, Tom, thank you for being so honest, because I think many of us feel like, we don't want to make somebody feel pressured, but when we can sit there and spend the time making them feel valued and then be able to talk about what it is we're talking to them about, it doesn't feel so salesy, right? And then you can always use that small, big. Of course, you're free to choose. Remember that small, big? That helps a lot. So if we're authentic with that, they'll begin to like us and we'll begin to like them more too, which is what we're really looking for in a business partnership anyway. So like I said, we're going to look at the activators of liking, and they are so obvious and so simple that a lot of times we forget to use them. So before I get into this even more, I want to help you with minimizing some of the struggles that people are having with the implementation of these two principles that we're covering. We just did the R word, reciprocity, and we're doing liking. And so people are having a little bit of challenge with it. And I'm going to help you to give a bigger picture, give you a bigger picture, so it's going to help you to understand. So because we're learning only 2 of the 7, I think the tendency then could possibly be to look for ways to apply just these 2 principles in every moment that we see around us. So since we're learning them, and naturally we want to apply them. However, the kind of situation you're in will determine what specific principle will work best in that moment. So let's first look at how to break down the use of the 7 principles in a variety of situations, and then you'll see where reciprocity and liking operate. And the person communicating, meaning you guys, you communicating, your prime goal at that time determines which principle can be applied. So for instance, one of the main goals of any influencer involves cultivating a positive relationship. So I have a diagram for you, and I think this is going to help you see the bigger picture, like I said, to contextualize when you have to build that relationship. Then you're going to use the principle of reciprocity, liking, and unity. Now, there's strong research that when somebody's communicating, it's more likely to be successful if the recipient or the receiver of that communication can first feel positively towards the person. I think we can say that's the same for us when we're listening to somebody. And by the way, guys, if a person doesn't accept your phone call or replies to your email, then the best way to reconnect a relationship would be these 3 principles right there. Okay. Now, in a different situation, the goal might be to reduce uncertainty, because just having a positive relationship with a person doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to make a decision forward, right? And if you're finding that to be the case, the principle of social proof and authority could be applied. They need a level of certainty in either the situation you're talking about, the product you might be offering, the service you're providing, whatever it is you're proposing. Even if a team that you lead is apprehensive, they need more certainty about what you're asking them to do. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to unmute. because we're going to go into a discussion time right now. And somebody who hasn't talked yet, I want you to go ahead and go first. I want you to unmute. I'm looking at your screens. You're going to unmute. If you haven't talked yet, go ahead, unmute. Okay, great. Thank you, Nam. Anybody else unmuting? Laura, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Robert, great. Okay, so now what I want us to do real quick is I want you to answer, what do you think are the tip-offs? What do you think are the tip-offs indicating that someone is certain about you, but uncertain about your suggestion or service? What do you think is the tip-off when they're certain about you, but possibly uncertain about your proposal, your service, whatever you're suggesting? What's the tip-off? Who wants to jump in first?
Is this like something like wearing the same outfit or having the same hairdo?
No, it's about what are things that they might do to reveal to you that they might have certainty in you, they like the relationship, but uncertain about what it is you're proposing. What might be some things that they'll say? How might they behave?
They might say they have to think about it.
Very good. Yep. Anything else they might say or do?
Well, I might ask my husband or, check out with my husband or wife or whoever is there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Those are perfect answers. And we're going to go into another short discussion time in a little bit, but we would need to then implement, if that's the kind of answer that they're going to give you, or they need to think about it, that type of thing, like Debbie just said and Laura just said, then these are the two principles that we want to apply. And next, then there are situations where you can see there's a lack of motivation right here to take action. So for example, everybody believes regular exercise is good. Not eating sugar is good, right? I mean, guys, the leading medical experts overwhelmingly support that, right? But that might not be enough for somebody to actually do that, to exercise regularly and to watch their diet. Well, then you would use the principles of consistency, possibly by reminding them, for example, that what they've said in front of others in the past about the importance of personal health. I have a high school friend, and every once in a while we all go out, and that's exactly what I do to him because he had open heart surgery. So I watch what he's eating. I said, remember that goal and he said it in front of everybody, right? That's the principle of consistency, because they want to be consistent in their action with what they said. Internally, that's what they want. Or you can use the principle of scarcity by pointing out how they're going to miss out on valuable moments with their children or grandchildren if they don't take care of their health now. So you guys can see how the principles are applied based on the situation. And now you can see the bigger picture of all 7 that are available to use. And I think you can also see the potential power of stacking them. So I hope that helps to create context for you regarding the 2 that we are covering right now, because they're pretty easy for people to grasp the concept. It's the time of learning how to implement it that really takes the time. So for our subject tonight, the principle of liking has 3 activators: similarity, which is the degree to which others have things in common with us; praise, which are compliments; and cooperation, working with someone towards a common goal. And just like reciprocity, we think we know what liking is. They're simple, but optimal use of liking requires subtle practice and intentionality, just like what Tom shared with us. So let's start with similarity. We like those who are like us, meaning they're similar to us. And people say yes to people they like. It's been proven that something as minor as a name that sounds similar to our own name can drive agreement. How much more with similar backgrounds, interests, or attitudes? I think we're the only state in the US that actually asks, what high school did you go to, right? Similarity. So a takeaway key here is that before we begin to do business with or make a request of someone that we don't know well, We need to take the time to learn about them. And so the two ways we do that is super easy, right? We could either do an online search about who they are and what they're doing, or we could meet them for coffee and lunch. And it's simple, and we ought to do it in so many different situations. I think we've been taught that and we know that. But so many people fail to take this extra time to do the research. So now moving on, let's do an overview of the activator of praise. So we did similarity. We're going to do praise because I want to go through this fast. How simple praise works is shown wonderfully in the story that Sean brought up about Joe Girard as the #1 salesperson for 12 years, right? So he sold an average of 5 vehicles over those every day that he went to work. And each month he sent a card to his 13,000 clientele and said the one simple thing, I like you. And so based on the research, I think it's so powerful to see, even if you know 13,000 other people are getting this card, just to have that said to you on the card just kind of hits a core, right? Now I want to just make a side note. I think we all know that giving a false compliment can make the person like you, but sooner or later, right? If it's insincere, it will make you lose credibility. So sincerity is very key. And here's the thing. If you take the time and effort to find one praiseworthy thing about a person, you'll increase your liking of that person too. And once the people you deal with recognize that you like them, their subconscious brain defenses go down about whether they can trust you and what it is you have to say. And why is that? Because most people deep inside their belief system, I can tell you, are concerned that they're not going to be liked. It's a rejection thing. So it's a common thing. Trust me, it's a common thing. Okay. Now, the 3 questions John Maxwell says everybody's asking of you is, can I trust you? Do you care about me? And can you help me? So there are 2 especially effective ways to amplify the impact of your praise or compliments, right? So the first one is to compliment behind that deserving person's back. In other words, it's a true, honest, sincere compliment. Praising people behind their back can be more effective than telling them something directly. So for instance, you're in a meeting with your boss, let's say, and something he says you thought was very smart. They said something that I thought you think was brilliant. Well, telling your boss right there in that meeting can potentially appear self-serving or awkward. And so, by the way, bosses get praised the least, and they are just as human and have down moments like everybody else. All those of you who are a leader of something, you know what I'm talking about, right? And they appreciate it when somebody praises them. So discussion time. I know you all muted again. Discussion time. So what could you do instead? How could you compliment your boss without looking like a kiss up? Nom.
I don't know about the boss situation, but it's funny as we're putting what we're learned into really words. There was a situation where I was trying to, I think I told you about him, this new client of mine. There's so many different things that I want to help him with, like red light therapy, life waves, all this stuff. And they're all really going to help him and they're great. And he's interested in it. But, Layla's told me many times, like too much information is not good. So I thought I had lost this person because I just drowned him in so much information. But I found similarities. And then I found a way to compliment him exactly this way. So he's already like very wealthy, really smart. He's involved in all kinds of stuff, boards and stuff. But I found out through him that he knows one of my really close girlfriends that I've known for years. And he told me, oh my gosh, she was my debate partner in high school. I was like, dude, she's like my super good friend. And so I texted her. I said, hey, this is my client, blah, blah. So before he comes back, which is tomorrow, yesterday I texted him and I said, hey, my friend said that you are super, super smart and that you're probably out there saving the world or something, and I don't know, but that just brought him back in. And it wasn't my intention to like just falsely compliment, but that she really, really, she said, if he's doing anything, I would totally invest in whatever he's doing.
Yeah,
So,
well, I want to say that the fact that he is hearing from you that his high school
Mhm.
classmate is talking great about him behind his back, I mean, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Robert, I know you unmuted. Do you have a way to compliment your boss without looking like a kiss up since you are the boss? You unmuted. Are you there? Oh, now you mute. Do you have something you want to add? You don't have to, because I'm going to move on if you don't have anything. It's okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on. Thank you. All right. All right. Sometimes after the meeting, here's this, I'm going through this because some people didn't actually read the 50 pages that Sean read. So, well, I want to just go over this. Okay. So after the meeting, you're going to tell your assistant the thoughts, right? Hey, your boss had a really great next step forward. I thought it was really brilliant, right? So there's a couple things that are going to happen, right? The person's going to want to be associated with good news. So they're going to tell the boss. And so it's going to be like what Nam just did, right? And then secondly, because you didn't praise the boss at the time of the meeting, you don't look like a kiss up. And then third, your boss will believe your praise is genuine and may want to connect with you better. And that's kind of what Nam was talking about, is that it just kind of pulled him into leaning in a little bit more. Now, the second effective form of praise is to compliment them before they've done a good thing you'd like them to continue doing. So we're talking about reinforcing behavior. I mean, that's a big thing. We do that all the time, and we teach our parents in our program how to reinforce behavior. If there's somebody on your team or somebody you have to work with who ordinarily comes prepared for a meeting, let's say, or a helpful friend who frequently tries to give useful input on your ideas, praise them, not just on the accomplishment, but instead on the behavior they're exhibiting. Here's a small big right here. Here's a small big. It's just coming to mind right now. When you compliment somebody on the work they did, hey, that was really great work you did. You've done great progress. It actually, research shows they kind of take the foot off the pedal. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. But if you compliment them on the effort, or you compliment them on the commitment, the behavior affirmation, right? They're actually going to keep moving forward in that behavior. So something you can think about when you're working with people. Research shows all people of all ages complimented on their positive behaviors become significantly more helpful later, right? We use that with our kids, like I said. All right. Our last activator of liking is cooperation, and shared interests and mutual goals promote cooperation. Now, show of hands, because I'm looking at you. Show of hands, who here had felt the frustration of trying to get things moving in a positive direction, right? Positive, productive direction without the cooperation of others? Who's ever felt that frustration? Maybe I'm the only one. Okay, 2 of us, 4 of us. Great. Okay, great. Right. That's right. I'm not the only one. Thank you. And here's the thing. Research shows people are typically very poor at identifying shared interests and goals that specifically create and produce cooperation. So a study of 32 negotiation situations analyzed to see if negotiators were good at uncovering shared interests for greater cooperations, and they studied 5,000 people. Negotiators failed to identify those opportunities 50% of the time. That's huge. This kind of error can seriously undermine your objectives and your bottom line results. Those that were rated average in negotiations spent only 10% of their time intentionally seeking out shared interests and goals with their counterparts before entering a negotiation of some sort. They spent most of their time trying to defend their positions or convincing the other person on their viewpoint. And now, how many conversations can you think of Literally, how many can you think of you've walked away from realizing, oh my gosh, I did all the talking, trying to get my point across instead of looking for opportunities to connect. I think we've all done it. Now, the successful negotiator spent 4 times as much effort searching for complementary interests and goals before moving into their position of negotiation. So seemingly shared interests and mutual goals promote cooperation when used effectively, which in turn promotes liking. Okay, we're going to stop share. All right. Now, I'm going to open this up for some conversation because I really want us to process this. Do I have time? Okay, no, this has gone on a little bit longer than I anticipate. I got a little bit of time. Talking to myself here, you all have to listen. Sorry. So my question for you is, what are some ways you can pick up clues to find shared interests and goals? What are some ways that you can pick that up? Think about that without looking too obvious. I want to listen to those who haven't spoken yet. Yeah, he told me, and then I'm going to go to Stephen and Laura, who's trying to duck. You can't duck. I'm going to call your name. Yeah, I can see you in the frame. Okay. He told me, go ahead.
Just be aware, I guess. So if you look at their things, or like in the book it said, like if they had like golf clubs in the back, or like a sticker of maybe a company or something that they might feel, I don't know, that is of their interest, or just kind of even just being visually aware of I don't know, think clues like that. And otherwise, I was thinking just asking question and just talking, but maybe that's something you can even start off with.
Yep. Yeah, good. Stephen.
Yeah, I take the visual cues first, like things they're wearing, or just in the close proximity. But most of the things get revealed, or for me, when in conversation. So I think for me, yeah, that's kind of how I open things up for it. That's the small talk before most meetings start. That's what pisses off a lot of the observers and the season S's, because they want to get things going. But yeah.
Okay, and actually, I'm going to hold off on the thought that I wanted to. That's going to be next week. I'm going to hold myself back. Thank you for sharing that, Laura. Yep. How are some ways you can pick up common interests and goals, shared interests and goals?
I'm just repeating what everybody else pretty much said. Visual cues. I just kind of look at their desk, what they dress up their desk with, what they're carrying, their bag. I've been asking them, what did they do over the weekend? So I can kind of see what kind of interest that they have.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here's a question for you, especially for those of you who've been in past masterminds with me. Where do you think the line is where you maintain rapport in common interests and goals, and you ask questions about their life and that sort of thing, and when you moved into commonality, which can break rapport? So in Hawaii, for those of you who have never taken a mastermind where I've talked about this before, in Hawaii, we're very much into like trying to connect on multiple points. But at some point you do that too much, you actually don't realize it, but you're losing rapport with the person in terms of your credibility. Because now it's just a talk story. Now you're just a friend, right? And so you want to watch where that line is. You want to stay in the channel of rapport at all times, because that gives you the credibility and the respect where you can be able to move it into some sort of conversation that has to do with a business transaction or something like that. So we've talked about the difference between commonality and rapport before, for those of you who've been in a mastermind with me. So I'd like to hear what you guys think the line is as we are talking about identifying shared interest and goals, especially if you know what I'm talking about. I threw a curveball at you. Stephen, I'm going to have you go first.
Of course. I would say the point where you cross the line, or can cross the line, at least for me, is when I'm getting too comfortable. So like I drop my guard. But by doing that, I guess the sense of professionalism can, I guess, kind of that armor can get pierced. I think that's where others probably not looking to I guess to be subversive to that, but they can. I mean, it can be used, and they actually the rapport goes down because they see you more as a friend rather than a boss or as someone who has, I guess, credibility.
Yeah, great. Tom, how about you?
Well, I was going to say, like, if I'm the one talking with someone and I seemingly everything that they say, I try to make some connection point to that. And I think at some point it maybe comes off a little disingenuous because it's like I'm connecting to everything, right? It's like it's like having an answer to everything. It's like everything they bring up about their life. Oh yeah, and me too. I think after a while it sounds it just doesn't sound right. And if I'm answering that correctly, but that's how I
Yeah,
relate.
so where's the after a while line?
I would say when they seemingly get impatient with you a little bit, like, and they want you to get to the point, and it's like, why are we here? What is this all about?
Yeah.
So it kind of comes off. I think I recognize where they're wanting to move on. They're not wanting to have this chit chat anymore. My wife would say they want you to get to the bottom line at some point. It's like, and because otherwise it's like, why did we get together? What was this great thing you wanted to tell me about? And seemingly we're only talking about kids and where we like to go on vacation, and it's like,
right. And here's the thing, before they get to that place, never having heard us talk about this before, that's really a great assessment, Tom. I also want to say that before they get to the external clues that they're getting, like, what are we here for? Subconsciously, they were already there. So for everybody, right, there needs to be like a kind of a gauge for you internally. Like Stephen was saying, his gauge is when I get too comfortable. Well, Stephen's an I. So his uncomfortable, like I'm getting too comfortable. So his line of being comfortable could be a little bit, bigger than somebody who's like a C, right? So we want to be mindful of that as well, right? So what's the gauge for you internally to know I've taken this too far? I've talked story too long. And even if they haven't shown any physical, physical demonstration of losing their, patience with what you're there for. Does that make sense? Who has a question about that? Anybody else have a question about that?
5 minutes. That's
your thing.
That's the internal clock that's in my head. Because yeah, as you said, I can talk forever, and then we can be meeting about. We might not even have the meeting.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can be like that as an I. Anybody else want to say anything about this? Your thoughts? I see people thinking, so I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Robert, I don't think you've said anything yet. You unmuted and then you muted.
Well, I'm at fault. That's why I know too many name dropping. Oh, this one. Oh yeah, we played golf together, and oh yeah, that one. So I know I overextend. So if Steven is 5 minutes, I'll probably be longer than that. I need one of those vaudeville books to get me out of that conversation.
Yeah, but I don't think you're the only one. So what are some ways that you can get that kind of internal clock going, you think?
Just think of Laura. Stop it.
Okay, no. Let's try that and see if it works.
Well,
yeah, Nam, go ahead.
I think it gets to, so when you're having that where you're connecting, it's good when both sides are talking and communicating. But when it comes to a point when you're just like, you're still talking and they're really quiet, that's usually a really good indicator that you're at that point. So I catch myself like, oh, I'm doing a lot of talking now. I'm shut up. Like, oh, so why don't we move on to what we're here for? You know, it's for me, usually that's the indicator.
Yeah, and you're kind of talking about picking up the personality type. Because an I is going to continue having a conversation with you, right? An S, maybe not. A C, maybe not, because they're introverted. A D, like, I'm here for something specific, like, let's get it done, right? So you're picking up the cues on the personality type and how to address it. Anybody else want to chime in? Okay. All right. Well, what we're going to do is we are going to go into our breakout rooms. Okay. So I'm going to get the into the chat, excuse me. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. You might want to take a screenshot of that. Daryl, are you able to jump into a room? I know that you're at work, but I need to, I don't know if you want to chat that or something. Okay, I won't put you into a room. Okay, so what's going to happen is that you are going to, I'm trying to put you in a room. I'm multitasking, not something I should do, but here I am doing it. Okay. So what you're going to do is you are going to partner up with somebody. You can do the person with the lightest shirt. I mean, no, you're just going to have a conversation. Excuse me. You're going to have a conversation. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So this is a pretty good conversation. And I want you guys to know each other really well. So you're going to need to have something to write with. You're going to take notes. You ready? So I want you to just jot some things down. So, introduce your, if you have met before, pretend you don't know each other. Okay. And the goal is not to shoot the breeze. The goal is to pick up common interests, similarities, that type of thing. It's not to just like all my eyes. Oh, I better check to see if I have eyes. Oh, I do have some eyes. All right. That'll be a good challenge for you. I have a couple of eyes together. So the goal is not to shoot the breeze. The goal is to get a list of similarities, praise areas, things like that, common interests that you can use in cooperation. Okay. No, Ken. Robert, you're going to stay here. With me. Yeah, you get to practice with me. Okay, so that's all I want you to do. And you're going to come back with your list. And we're going to have a competition between the two of you. We're going to see who in your group was able to get the longest list of identifying common interests, goals, similarities, where you can praise them, that sort of thing. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, you got something to write with? Everybody, okay, good. All right, you got 10 minutes. Just gonna shoot the breeze, not shoot the breeze. You're gonna just get to know each other. 10 minutes. Okay. All right, Robert.
10 minutes done.
It's gonna take about a minute. Yeah, so maybe about an hour. If I'm doing a 3-mile walk, if I walk the dog on the hill, maybe about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I like walking because I pray when I walk.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
We open it up in prayer.
Yeah. Great. See, that's another thing we have in common.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to see who had more on the other person.
You did. Because you kept talking.
You got to jump right in there. They're going to be coming in about 9 seconds. You did good. You did good.
Right.
Yeah, I can ask people a lot of questions about them, but then, I got to be sensitive when it makes them feel like I'm interrogating them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, so how did it go? What did you who got the most? Let's go per group. Let's see. Debbie and Laura, how many did you guys each get on your partner?
Did we enumerate this thing? I mean, because we have a lot in common.
Yeah, you're supposed to have written notes.
I do.
Okay.
So Debbie's a health coach. I love.
Oh no, just count it. Just count it.
One, but then we can just go one. Okay, her daughter's in ballet. I did ballet. She likes snoring. 1, 2, 3. She's a gut specialist. I have problems with my gut. Um, we're just health nuts.
Good, good. Just count, Laura, just count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can I make up some more?
No, you can't. You can only do what you wrote down. All right, you got 8. Debbie, how many did you get?
9.
You got 9. Okay, Debbie won. All right. He told me and Mary Lou. How much did you guys get?
18.
Oh my gosh. Look, he told me his face. Mary Lou, you won. Okay. Nam and Sean, how many did you guys get?
I think I got 15.
Okay, Sean?
I got about 13, I think it was.
Okay, Nam. Well, you guys, that's pretty close. Just like Debbie and Laura, pretty close. Okay, Tom and Steven. Oh, you're muted, Tom.
I think we had 19. No, we didn't. I think I had like 5 or 6, and I'm not sure what Steven wrote down.
Oh, I didn't write down anything. I totally
Oh.
thought we were competing
Tom
against
won.
the rest of the
Yeah.
So I'm over here like thinking like, okay, if somebody says like, oh, we did 24.
No, because you're going to need this for our next exercise. So better be jotting it down fast, Steven. Here we go.
Steel trap.
Okay.
Oh
So,
gosh.
yeah. So you're going to want to take a screenshot of this. You're going to go into your breakout room again. And what you're going to do is you're going to have 6 minutes each. And what you're going to do, 6 minutes, not each person, 6 minutes discussing this. Okay. So what you're going to do is in each scenario, you're going to pick who, like, how you want to discuss the role of it based on the commonality of the interests, the common goals, the common things that you have in order. How would you approach this situation with the information? So let's look at Tom and Steven. So let's just say you guys are discussing if Tom were the sales executive and Steven were the client that he was trying to get, then you're both having a discussion, knowing the interests, Tom knowing Steven's interests, right? How would you approach that scenario, knowing that the interest that you have with Steven, the client, right? So have a discussion. This is not role playing. It's just to get the concept of how you're going to apply it. And you're going to do the same thing with scenario number 2, right? So scenario number 1 is it's a sales executive at a company. You can choose what the company name is. You can have a conversation about that. Meeting with a high potential client. You're discussing how the solutions how what you offer can help that client's needs, but you're going to use the principle of liking to build that rapport, and you're going to discuss the best way to apply it. Scenario number 2, you've been at your chosen company for 8 years and your boss doesn't seem to like you. They don't give you feedback to improve, and you're concerned about the future at the company. So you like the rest of the team, and you like the mission of the company, so you want to keep the position. How do you use the amplifiers of liking? And you decide, you might swap it. So let's say now Steven's going to be the boss and Tom's the one in the situation of trying to connect with the boss. Discuss what would be the best way to approach it, knowing the shared goals and interests or areas you could praise each other in that would apply in that particular situation. Does that make sense?
Not role playing, but discussing how you would role play.
That's right. How would you approach the actual situation if you were in it?
Okay.
Yeah. Anything? Any questions? Okay. Any questions? Okay. So you're going to have 6 minutes for each scenario. Okay. Oh, great. I'm going to put. Well, this is going to throw both of you off, but just have a good discussion anyway. Daryl and Robert, you're going to go into a room together, and you're going to have. You guys have known each other enough in different masterminds to be able to come up with some common interests, right? So, right? Okay. You guys have a blast. Let's see how that goes. I'll pop in on you and see how it's going. 6 minutes for each scenario. Okay. All right. Did somebody lose a partner? Because I heard it drop off. Okay, no, they're back. Okay. All right. How did it go? Who wants to share? What did you learn from the process? Somebody share what you learned.
For me, I would say that I'm not good at writing things down as I'm talking to someone. And I also, so I was trying to be very intentional about that and trying to be very listening a lot closer than I think I typically do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was good practice. And then trying to bring it back around, so to speak, with the scenarios, I thought was very helpful. So I appreciated that exercise.
Good, good. Yeah. Who else? What did you learn?
For me, it was I found it to be difficult. I mean, it's not my usual makeup to interact so much with people and but it was I love talking to people, but you know,
Let me clarify. I like
yeah,
people.
I like people, but you know, just to be mentally intentional about picking up on certain things that they're saying and you know, remembering, because in the midst of a conversation, you kind of be like, oh wait, hold on, let me, you know, let me write that down.
Right.
And then to keep that in mind, and so Mary Lou is great because she's just naturally like this is what she's good at. And so even you know, as she's like giving me examples of what she would say or do, like that was really helpful for me to think, oh yeah, that sounded really good, like how she worded that and how she used that information. So yeah, practice, 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 and
Yeah.
intention.
Thank you for both you and Tom, both of you saying that, because I think, yeah, what you just ended with was the intentionality of it. Usually we react to a conversation. We let the conversation take the flow. And we follow that flow, you know what I mean? Instead of being very intentional about the outcomes that we're looking for. And I think that's what the principle of liking is about, is being very intentional about the outcome of really knowing that person and liking them. And so I promise you, because I understand what you're talking about, it can be developed. It absolutely can be developed. You just have to train yourself for that and just make that intentionality that you just talked about. Okay, real quick, this Saturday, we're going to do practice, practice, practice. I've got a lot of things planned for that. So it starts at 9, we'll end at 11. And so for those of you who are not familiar with C4, it's right above CPK Kahala. And when you go up the stairs and in the doors, you're going to turn left. You're going to go through the glass door. And then we'll be around the corner in the blue room, I think. Blue or green? It doesn't even look blue or green. You'll just see it on the wall. Okay, the next thing is I really do need to know how many people might be interested in doing the 5 other principles, because this one is going to be the actual virtual digital course from Robert Cialdini himself. So Sean, you can listen to the audiobook of 50 pages, but some of the pages are 75. I mean, some of the chapters are 75 pages, right? So, but this is going to be like really easy to digest. It's not going to take up that much time. And the course itself is priced at a certain amount. It's like $1,500. But I'm trying to see if I can get a bundle rate. Okay. So that's why I need to know how many people, because if we could bundle it, maybe they're going to give me a discount, and I'm trying to go back and forth and wait for them to get back to me on that. And that's going to help a lot. But in addition to that, of course, we're going to go over the principles like we are here, comprehend it, and then practice it. So it'll be 10 weeks. So you'll really come out knowing the 7 principles. And the other thing about it is we're going to have live practices where you can start stacking it. So I'm going to create scenarios and I'll show you how to stack the different principles in a particular scenario. And you'll see how easy it is. It's just about, I'm pointing at Hitomi and Tom, it's about the intentionality. And so the practice helps with that. Okay. So now, you know, of course, you're free to choose, but it will help to know if we can bring the price down a little bit. If you could let me know maybe by Saturday when we get together. Okay. And then I'll let you know what goes on after that, after we get that response. Thank you, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. It has been a pleasure and a joy to be with you. And I will see you on Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Layla.
I'll stay on for questions if you have
Bye.
any. Bye.
Oh, Layla, I'm not gonna be able to make it on Saturday.